Now that everyone is talking about Britney Spears and her restrictive conservatorship, many are also pointing to the various people over the years that tried to warn us about the conservatorship in the past and the negative impact that it's had on Britney. And at number 5, Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton recently opened up about her traumatic childhood after keeping it a secret for most of her life. In her documentary, This Is Paris, Hilton alleged that she'd been subjected to toxic and abusive treatment while attending Provo Canyon School in Utah, which was a boarding school for troubled teens. Hilton revealed that while she was there, she would be isolated and solitary for no reason, and be forced to take pills that made her feel numb. The conversation around Paris' school was recently brought up by Britney during her court testimony. Spears said, quote, "To be honest with you, the Paris Hilton story on what they did to her in that school, I didn't believe any of it. I'm sorry, I'm an outsider and I'll just be honest, I didn't believe it." At first, many of Paris' fans thought that Britney was being rude and disrespectful. However, others figured that Britney was drawing parallels in her life to Paris's, essentially saying that many people were skeptical of Paris even though it was the truth because it was such an unbelievable story. However, Britney wants us all to know that secret things like this happen often in Hollywood, and it happened to Britney too. Paris Hilton also liked many tweets to this effect, hinting that Britney brought it up to paint another picture of Britney's terrible treatment during her conservatorship. Paris has also commented on the Free Britney movement. After Framing Britney Spears was released, Hilton said, quote, "It makes me feel really sad for her because she's such a sweet girl and has such a big heart, and I just can't imagine being controlled like that. You know, when you're an adult and you've worked your whole life for building this empire and then just to be treated like a child. It's not fair." And at number 4, Chris Crocker. Back in 2007, during one of Britney's worst moments, Chris Crocker made a video as a plea for help that quickly went viral. To give you a quick refresher on the video, it shows Crocker crying while yelling, quote, "Leave Britney alone," to the camera. But after learning what we know now about Britney, it's clear Crocker was right. In the video, Crocker outlines everything that Britney had been going through up until that point, saying that she had deaths in her family, went through a divorce, and was going through a custody battle. So because of all those things, we just needed to leave Britney alone and stop bashing her in the media. Crocker said, quote, "Have we learned nothing from Anna Nicole Smith? I know it's hard to see Britney Spears as a human, but trust me, she is. She's a person." And even though tons of sense was made in the video, Crocker actually got tons of hate after making the video, and they were ridiculed in the media and in real life because of the viral video. With the recent talks surrounding the Free Britney movement, Crocker addressed the past video in an Instagram post, where Crocker says that they were mocked and ridiculed by other members of the LGBT community because they felt that Crocker had given the community a bad name. However, thankfully times have changed, and not only have differences been embraced by society, we are all united on the fact that Britney needs to be treated better by the media, legal system, and her family. And at number 3, Craig Ferguson. Back in 2007, when Britney was the media's punching bag, Craig Ferguson decided to do the opposite of what every other late night host was doing at the time and defend Britney instead of ridicule her. Apparently, the same weekend that Britney had her infamous meltdown where she shaved her head was Ferguson's 15-year anniversary of sobriety. So instead of taking shots at her during his monologue, he decided to change course and empathize with her instead. During the 12-minute monologue, Ferguson said, quote, "I want to be able to be funny, but I want to be able to get some sleep." Adding, quote, "It looks to me like Britney Spears has a similar problem going on with alcohol. This woman has 2 kids. She's 25 years old. She's a baby herself. She's a baby, and the thing is, you can embarrass somebody to death. It's embarrassing to admit you're an alcoholic." Basically relating his struggles with alcohol to whatever she was dealing with at the time. Ferguson spoke about the support during a Sirius XM show in 2019, where he said he was pretty sure that he was actually going to be getting fired for not making fun of Britney like every other late night host. He ended that the decision ended up benefiting him later in life. For one of his stand-up shows, he wanted to use "Oops, I Did It Again," but everyone told him that there was no way that was going to be approved. However, when his team reached out to Britney, she remembered what he did for her, and Britney let him use the song for free. So definitely a case of good karma. And at number 2, Amber Tamblyn. Actress Amber Tamblyn, who started working when she was just a child, recently revealed the family dynamic between children that work and their parents that manage them. In an op-ed for the New York Times titled "Britney Spears' Raw Anger and Mine," Tamblyn discussed the parallels between her life and Britney's. First, Tamblyn spoke about her own acting work as a child, saying that she started to financially support her entire family, adding, quote, "As I made more and more money, the circle of those I supported opened up to include extended family members and friends. I was everyone's ATM, a bank that was nonetheless unconditionally loved. Still, as I got older, it got harder to trust the source of that love. She also says that even though her parents were ethical when they managed her, it still damaged their relationship to have her parents working for her. Eventually, she decided to fire them from her management. In reference to Britney, Tamblyn said, quote, "As someone who's experienced a small taste of what Britney has gone through, I know that what she's done is a profoundly radical act. When I see her giving her testimony now, I can't help but think back to that bald Britney in 2007, raw in her rage and tired of being everyone's spectacle." She ended the piece by thanking Britney for speaking up, even though it has been difficult. Quote, "Our autonomy, both bodily and fiscal, is worth fighting for," adding that it's up to us to listen and fight for Britney now. And finally, at number 1, Beyoncé. Beyoncé is another superstar that was heavily controlled by her father, Matthew Knowles, in the beginning of her career. When she was just starting out, she was in girl group Girls' Time, which eventually turned into Destiny's Child, and her father would make most of the tough decisions, as well as take huge payments from the group. According to the Mirror, Matthew was also incredibly harsh with the girls, and was not empathetic to any mistakes. One source said, quote, "Matthew did not mince his words, and it can be tough to take that kind of criticism when you're a little girl." Eventually, the troubles going on in the family's personal life started to affect business, and after Beyoncé's mother Tina divorced Matthew, Beyoncé also fired him as her manager. Since then, their relationship has somewhat recovered, but it took many years. Neither Solange or Beyoncé decided to attend their father's wedding to Gina Avery. Beyoncé also spoke about her father in her song Daddy Lessons, with fans thinking that some of the lyrics about infidelity were not only about Jay-Z, but also on her father's infidelity on her mother. And although Beyoncé was not as heavily controlled as Britney, Beyoncé was definitely heavily guided by her father, who would not take no for an answer.
The cat's officially out of the bag. Ellen might be mean. After a Twitter thread went viral where comedian Kevin T. Porter called her one of the meanest people in the world and asked people to reply to the thread with stories about Ellen being mean, people are looking at Ellen DeGeneres in a whole new light. Not only did this tweet have hundreds of replies, there are even examples of Ellen being mean on camera as a part of her show. And let's not forget the feuds that she has going back maybe even decades. The fact is, there are celebrities who've been trying to warn us about Ellen for years. And I guess people are actually listening now. Alright, starting things off with Nikkie Tutorials. Most of you probably know by now that Nikkie DeJager appeared on Ellen right after she did her coming out video. But although she said that it was an honor to be on the Ellen show, that's like a "Mom, I made it" kind of moment. I was on Ellen. Nikkie admitted in a Dutch television interview in February that the experience wasn't what she thought it would be. Sebastian Williams found that clip and translated it. Roll it.
Het is wel heel leuk dat jij wel vooraf hallo kunt zeggen en zo. Het is bij Ellen in ieder geval, wat ik heb meegemaakt hier en andere landen, is dat gewoon een hele andere wereld. Het zit gewoon iets anders.
Afstandelijke killer.
I mean, her expression was like, she wanted to say it, but she couldn't say it. I'm actually surprised that she did say what she said. Coming for Ellen, Nikkie! Alright, next we have Dakota Johnson. When Dakota appeared on the Ellen show, the interview definitely got people talking, for all the wrong reasons. Not only was this interview extremely awkward, Dakota Johnson essentially clapped back at Ellen and called her out for, I guess, making her a little bit uncomfortable. Essentially, Dakota Johnson wasn't gonna let Ellen walk all over her for a quick joke. Roll the clip.
How was the party? I wasn't invited.
Actually, no, that's not the truth, Ellen. You were invited.
Is it just me, or is there some subtext going on there? It turns out that Dakota was actually right. She did invite Ellen to her birthday, but Ellen was out of town that weekend. It was the same weekend that Ellen was photographed at a Dallas Cowboys football game next to George W. Bush. More on that later. Oh, the tea! I got the tea! Next up, we have Mariah Carey. In a 2008 interview on The Ellen Show, Ellen tried to force Mariah Carey to drink alcohol to prove she wasn't pregnant.
People are saying that you're pregnant. There's rumors.
Don't discuss that.
All right, well, you don't have to answer.
That's okay. No, honestly,
you don't have to answer. Let's just toast with champagne and decide.
But they've been saying that since
Now, okay, listen, that sounds a lot worse than it is. At the time, it just sort of seemed like it was all in good fun. But while this little segment might have been lighthearted, as Ellen would put it, there is a reason why women don't like to discuss their pregnancies in the first trimester. Miscarriages. Getting excited about a pregnancy and going public with it when you're not sure if it's a for sure thing or not, it can be heartbreaking. And unfortunately for Mariah Carey, she did have a miscarriage just a few weeks after doing this interview. It wasn't due to the small sip of alcohol that she had, but there might have been a reason why she didn't want to discuss it. Next up, we have Susan Sarandon. There were a lot of people who were upset when they found out that Ellen DeGeneres and George W. Bush are friends. or at least friendly. When Ellen and George W. Bush were photographed together in 2019 while watching a football game, a ton of stars came out with criticism on social media. One of those stars is Susan Sarandon.
Here's the thing. I'm friends with George Bush. In fact, I'm friends with a lot of people who don't share the same beliefs that I have. We're all different, and I think that we've forgotten that that's okay, that we're all different.
Ellen defended her relationship with the former president in her talk show. She said, "I'm friends with a lot of people who don't share the same beliefs that I have." She also urged people to practice kindness, like she always does. This didn't go over well on social media. Here's a tweet. Ellen's whole thing about treating everyone with kindness only applies to people in her specific tax bracket, based on the open secret stories everyone hears about how she treats her staff. Susan Sarandon also responded to Ellen's explanation by tweeting an article by Out magazine called "Ellen is friends with Bush, but he was no friend to LGBTQ+ people." She added, "But missing the point entirely. DeGeneres framed this issue as simply a matter of her hanging out with someone with different opinions, not a man repeatedly accused of being a war criminal." Next up, we have Caitlyn Jenner. Caitlyn Jenner was banned from The Ellen Show after the release of her 2017 memoir, The Secrets of My Life. In the memoir, she said that Ellen alienated her from the LGBTQ community because of her thoughts on gay marriage. Caitlyn said, "I have to admit at the time that I remember, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, whenever it was that the whole gay marriage issue came up, I was not for it. I'm a traditionalist. I mean, I'm older than most people in the audience. I like tradition, and it's always been between a man and a woman, and I'm thinking, I don't quite get it." Comedian Sherri Shepherd has also been banned from The Ellen Show for similar beliefs. While I'm not going to get into whether or not those beliefs are wrong, it is interesting that Ellen chooses to defend her friendship with people like George W. Bush for having different beliefs, yet not people like Caitlyn Jenner or Sherri Shepherd. Shouldn't that stance apply to all people who she disagrees with, not just the ones that are convenient to her? I'm just saying. And of course, Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin versus Ellen is a bitter Hollywood feud we have all known about for years. But unlike Kathy, Ellen is well liked. Until now. I mean, especially after Kathy's whole Trump head thing, that was a little bit hard to stomach, I'm not gonna lie. So people were mostly on Ellen's side until now. In 2016, Kathy included a little jab at Ellen in her book about a, quote, daytime talk show host with short blonde hair. Kathy said that this person had a mean streak that all of Hollywood was aware of. Kathy Griffin has also been banned from The Ellen Show, and their feud started with a conversation about Joan Rivers. Kathy said, I quote, "One of the things that really hurt Joan, and we talked about it at our last meal together, was that Ellen always shunned her, and Ellen thought she was vulgar and not funny. I just called her and said, look, woman to woman, comic to comic, I think you need to let go of your hatred for Joan Rivers. She passed away. Do a f***ing tribute. Be cool." To which Ellen reportedly responded, "There's a difference between mean and funny." Well, you would know, Ellen, wouldn't ya? Ooh, I said it. I said it! According to Kathy Griffin, Joan Rivers didn't have a mean bone in her body. I personally love Joan Rivers' comedy. She's a legend, and I draw a lot of inspiration for my comedy from her. Comedy to me is about the unexpected. Joan Rivers paved the way for female comedians to be unapologetically themselves, rather than be stifled by what society deems as ladylike. For the record, Ellen did end up paying tribute to Joan Rivers on her show. Well guys, there you have it. I would just like to finish off this video not by defending Ellen, but just by saying that people are complex. Someone who appears extremely nice on TV might actually have a mean streak, and someone who appears really mean on TV might actually have a very soft side. We also can't forget all the good that Ellen has done for the world. She's human just like everyone else. We can all be mean in certain situations. And what she preaches is still important. You should always be kind to people. Not just when the cameras are rolling, huh? Huh? Yeah. You'd think that for being the golden girl of Hollywood, Ellen would have a pristine reputation. But despite Ellen's perfect public persona, she's made quite a few enemies over the years. I'm counting down the top 10 celebrities that don't like Ellen DeGeneres, here for you on IO. Welcome back to Inform Overload. We do the news, we spill the tea, we tell you about what's trending on the internet. I'm Charlotte Dobre. Smash the subscribe and notification bell so that you never miss one of our videos, and follow us on social media. I gave myself a quarantine haircut today, guys. It's not too much shorter, but thinned out a bit. I feel like it's healthy. I feel like it's healthy. Okay, let's stop talking about my hair. I first want to start off this video by saying that no person is perfect. I mean, can we all really say that we've never said anything bad about somebody else, that we've never, said something that we wish we could take back, or maybe acted a certain way around people and that might have changed that person's perception about us? Yeah, well, just take all these explanations with a grain of salt because nobody's perfect, not even Ellen. Starting off our list at number 10 with Elton John. Ellen came out of the closet more than 20 years ago. It was the biggest moment in her life and one of the biggest moments to date in pop culture. Naturally, people had a lot of opinions about it because it was a long time ago, and people aren't as accepting of LGBTQ people as they are today, though people still need to work on that. But anyways, so Ellen coming out of the closet was one of the biggest news stories of the year, to the point where people just like wouldn't stop talking about it. Ellen herself only did a Time magazine cover story. She did a primetime special with Diane Sawyer and Oprah, but other than that, she didn't really talk to people about coming out. It was mostly just tabloid headlines. But one of the stars that was just sick of hearing about Ellen being gay was, interestingly, Elton John, who reportedly said, "Shut up already. We know you're gay. Be funny." This really surprised Ellen because she was surprised to get that kind of response from a gay icon like Elton John. At number 9 on our list, we have Liza Minelli. This little riff comes from a joke that Ellen made when she hosted the Oscars in 2014. Not sure if you guys remember this, but in her opening monologue, she said, "Hello to the best Liza Minelli impersonator I've ever seen." It wasn't an impersonator, it was Liza Minelli sitting in the audience. The cameras panned over to Liza as Ellen said, "Good job, sir." Liza didn't really think the joke was very funny. In fact, the smile was like completely wiped off her face. In response, Liza Minelli said this, "I think Ellen thought it would be funny, but she never stopped after she said it and said, 'My friend Liza Minelli.'" That wasn't the only awkward moment for Liza at the 2014 Oscars involving Ellen. Remember that iconic Oscars selfie that Ellen took? You know, the one that broke all the Twitter records? Well, you might not have known this, but Liza Minelli was actually like in the photo, but you couldn't see her. She was behind all of the other actors. Other photos from that moment show her standing at the back. According to Liza, she stood up and then all the men pushed her out of the way. At number 8, we have Susan Sarandon. When Ellen was photographed at a Dallas Cowboys game, cozying up to George W. Bush, there were quite a few celebrities who spoke out against Ellen's relationship with George. Ellen defended herself and said that she's friends with all types of people, even people who have differing opinions, which is a good way to live, except for that doesn't really apply to all the people that she knows. I'll get to that later. Susan Sarandon tweeted this article with quotations. But missing the point entirely, DeGeneres framed the issue as simply a matter of her hanging out with someone with a different opinion, not a man repeatedly accused of being a war criminal. Ellen publicly denounces people like Caitlyn Jenner for not being as supportive of gay marriage as she should be, yet she hangs out with George W. Bush and calls him a friend, and George W. Bush was completely opposed to gay marriage when he was in office. The shade was thrown, friends. The shade was thrown. At number 7, we have Mark Ruffalo. Mark is another one of the celebrities that got upset when Ellen was seen with George W. Bush at that Dallas Cowboys game. Here's what he tweeted in response. "Sorry, until George W. Bush is brought to justice for the crimes of the Iraq War, including American-led torture, Iraqi deaths and displacement, and the deep scars, emotional and otherwise, inflicted on our military that served his folly, we can't even begin to talk about kindness." Critics of Mark Ruffalo and his tweet said that if he regarded George W. Bush as a war criminal, then he should feel the same way about both Obama and Hillary Clinton, when in reality Ruffalo actually backed both of their campaigns. One can only assume that Mark Ruffalo is a hypocrite, or he just doesn't like Ellen. Maybe it's a bit of both. At number 6, we have Drew Barrymore. It may come as a surprise to you that Drew Barrymore and Ellen DeGeneres don't get along. They actually worked on a reality TV show together back in 2017 called First Dates. First Dates was a series that explored all of the simple wonders of a first date. But according to people close to them who worked on the show, Drew and Ellen are, quote, like oil and water. Apparently, they both wanted creative control over the show and they would butt heads pretty often. A source told In Touch, Ellen expected to be the one calling the shots, but Drew thinks she should have the creative control because she was the movie star that people are tuning in to see. Even though Drew narrated the show, Ellen was the executive producer. The show wasn't picked up for a second season, unfortunately, and nobody really knows why, but the rumors are that the show failed because Ellen and Drew were just not really good at communicating with one another. Halfway there, at number 5, we have Dakota Johnson. Dakota's Ellen appearance was one of the things that marked the downfall of Ellen's pristine reputation. It was one of the most awkward TV interviews ever, and I'm even surprised that it ended up on the air. If you haven't seen that interview, Ellen calls Dakota out for not inviting her to her birthday party for the second year in a row. I'm sure that she thought that that was like a joke that like people wouldn't think much of, but Dakota clarified that she did invite Ellen to her recent birthday party and Ellen just didn't show up. Know where Ellen was that weekend? Hanging out with George W. Bush at a Dallas Cowboys game. Yeah. At number 4, we have Wendy Williams. Is it that outlandish of a claim that Wendy and Ellen don't really like each other? It's probably a mutual feeling. Both these women have daytime talk shows that compete with one another. They also have competing audiences. Interestingly, Wendy has been on Ellen's show a few times, but not the other way around. Wendy has never invited Ellen to appear on her show. Either that or Ellen doesn't want to be on Wendy's show. Either or, it's not a good scenario. The two talk show hosts could not be more different. Wendy is known for being outspoken and harsh, and while Ellen is actually known for disliking celebrities who are outspoken and harsh. Joan Rivers and Kathy Griffin included. The feud between Ellen and Wendy seems to go back to an interaction between Wendy and Ellen's wife, Portia de Rossi. There was one specific time where Wendy approached Portia on the red carpet, and she asked about an incident where Portia was seen cozying up to another woman in a hot tub. This was before Portia was openly gay, and it was also before people knew about her relationship with Ellen. That would make me salty about Wendy as well. Definitely not the right environment to ask that kind of question either. Oh, hi, excuse me. Come here. Are you gay? Like, no, I'm gonna go and, I'm gonna go. At number 3, we have Caitlyn Jenner. Caitlyn Jenner aired out all of her dirty laundry about Ellen in her tell-all book. According to Caitlyn and her book, their feud started with Caitlyn's controversial appearance on The Ellen Show in 2015. The interview was meant for Caitlyn to clear up misconceptions about her political views. Caitlyn is a conservative, and she, at first, opposed the idea of gay marriage. Since coming out as transgender, Caitlyn said that she has changed her mind. After Caitlyn's appearance, Ellen went on the Howard Stern show where she said that Caitlyn Jenner wasn't fully on board with marriage equality. According to Caitlyn, Ellen's reaction painted Caitlyn as anti-marriage equality, and it, quote, further alienated her from members of the LGBTQ community. Caitlyn said that Ellen took her words out of context and made it go viral. At number 2 on this list, we have Piers Morgan. Let's face it, Piers Morgan doesn't like anybody. He just hates everyone. Which is probably why people like him. He's entertaining. He's made a career out of slamming down celebrities on Good Morning Britain. But he's known to openly dislike Ellen. He's said it a few times. He doesn't really give her the treatment, the special treatment, the be kind treatment that Ellen always preaches. Back in 2018, in a discussion on the show where it was revealed that they would be covering the Oscars, the hosts were talking about who they thought should host. Piers quickly said that Ricky Gervais should host. He said, Ricky Gervais should host the Oscars, let's be honest. Ricky Gervais should be parachuted in to rip them all to pieces. Susanna then said that Ellen would be a great host, to which Piers responded, oh, don't be ridiculous. She is a hopeless, hopeless host. Sycophantic, you get the idea. But this wasn't the only time that Piers threw shade at Ellen. He's called her out for being a hypocrite on several occasions. He attacked her for supporting Kevin Hart to host the Oscars after all that drama unfolded, saying on Twitter, of course, if Trump had said the homophobic things Kevin Hart tweeted, Ellen would have led the furious, unforgiving woke rage against him. Liberal celebrity hypocrisy is such a limitless vibe. And at number 1 here, we have Kathy Griffin. This is an age-old feud between two female comedians that should be friends. I mean, really, there's not enough female comics as it is, and the two main ones are hating each other. I don't know. It just sucks that they can't work it out. Kathy has been open about the fact that she and Ellen are not BFF. She said in interviews before that she is, quote, not Ellen's cup of tea. She also said in her comedy show at the Los Angeles Dobre Theater that Ellen rejected the opportunity to pay tribute to Joan Rivers when she died, saying, one of the things that really hurt Joan, and we talked about this at our last meal together, was that Ellen always shunned her and Ellen thought she was vulgar and not funny. According to Kathy Griffin, Ellen had banned her from appearing on The Ellen Show. And also, apparently, Ellen kicked her out of the backstage area of the Emmys. Ellen denies that she's banned Kathy Griffin from her show, but she also said this in response. She did a whole thing that I banned her from her show. I didn't ban her from the show because first, you have to be on the show to be banned. Well, if that isn't a shade throw, I don't know what is.